Ahoy crew, Steve of the Black Spot Guild here. I wanted to finally take the time and make a review video of several cutlasses that are out there on the market. So here it is. I'm not going to go into too much detail on each one in this one. This is more of a comparison. I might do individual videos for each one, but cutlasses are pretty simple. I don't know if I really need to go into too much detail. So I'm going to go down the line here and talk a little bit about each one just kind of briefly. To give you a general rundown of what we have here. On the right we have the Kingston Arms American Revolutionary War Hanger. Next we have the Hanwei Revolutionary War Hanger. This is the Baltimore Knife and Steel, or otherwise Baltimore Knife and Sword, Kraken cutlass. And this, on the far left, is a replica of the Jack Sparrow Pirates of the Caribbean sword made by Tony Swatton. So that's the four we're going to be talking about here. So if we start on the right, the Kingston Arms American Revolutionary War Hanger. We'll go around this side so we can see a little bit better. So here's a little view of this guy. Beautiful cutlass for sure. All these cutlasses are functional to varying degrees and for various purposes. They're as functional as they're supposed to be for what each one is made for. So this one is an extremely functional for use on a battle, use on a ship, whatever, cutlass. It comes insanely sharp right out of the box, just ridiculously razor sharp. The sharpest sword I think I've ever gotten from the factory sharpness. You can always make them sharper. Other swords, other cutlasses, but this one you don't need to. It just comes insanely sharp. It's a real leather grip wrapped with some wire on there, pretty sweet. I got a bit of a fuller that's supposed to lighten the blade, which it does a bit. This one it's got a threaded pommel. Actually, most of these have threaded pommels, so this is actually just a little cap that you can remove, and inside are the threads to dismantle this. And threaded pommels were, in medieval swords, they're frowned upon for modern replicas, but for cutlasses, stuff like that, same goes for many rapiers. It was actually a pretty traditional design to have them be threaded even back in the day. So having a modern replica that's also threaded is accurate and very reasonable and appropriate. So if you actually had something like this at sea, after you're done with your battles, you can dismantle it and clean the salt, blood, guts out of the thing, oil it, and put it back together. So very cool that is, in fact, threaded. So this guy, it's definitely for right-hand use specifically. So you have that cage that just blocks the right hand, and that's fine. Most people are righty, so that's not a problem for most people. Carry it on your left side. Guards your hand there when you're fighting. Pretty cool. The blade is pretty good temper. Temper being the when you bend it, how well does it come back to straight? It's a solid temper. This is a reasonably stiff blade. For cutlasses, similar to sabers, were generally pretty stiff swords. You didn't want them to bend much that easily, and this one's definitely has a reasonable flex stiffness to it. It's pretty good. It's actually stiffer than some. A little bit more flexible than some of the others, but definitely within reason. So pretty good. And you can see the spine there. It's pretty thick. Let's see. There we go. Try to get it to focus. Pretty thick by the guard, and the distal taper is how this thins out. It's called distal taper. It's got pretty good distal taper coming down to just a couple millimeters at the tip. Probably 5 millimeters at the base, going down to 2 or 3 millimeters at the tip. So pretty awesome distal taper there. Yeah. So that's a Kingston Arms American Revolutionary War cutlass. Pretty awesome. It comes with a scabbard. I should mention that. That's also leather. Fits in here well. Little snug at the end there in a good way. That way it can't come out. So that's pretty important to some people. It doesn't bother me much either way. But yeah, well-fitting, nice scabbard. Next we have the Hanwei Revolutionary War hanger. This is one I've had for a while. It comes a bit antiqued. Usually I antiqued mine a little bit more. It didn't come all that sharp, just a little bit sharp, and I also sharpened mine a lot more. So now it's similar to the Kingston Arms one. Also very, very functional. It too has a threaded pommel there. So again, this one is just a cap. Pull that out and you have some threads inside there. They use a pretty elaborate thread system that you need a pretty fancy tool to get in there. It's like almost a sort of spanner wrench that you get in there and take it apart with, but it's still serviceable. You can still do it yourself. Just like the Kingston Arms, you have a leather over wood grip. I don't know if I mentioned that with the other one. The other one had the wire wrap on top of it. This one does not, so just leather over wood. Pretty solid. This one's steel. Both of them have the steel guard and pommel. Steel blade. Don't know the exact steel that they use for either one, but it's just a good solid carbon steel. This one's a little stiffer than the Kingston Arms. If I try to bend it, it doesn't like to bend nearly as much, which is interesting since the blade is very, very similar thickness at probably about 5 millimeters, going down to 2 or 3 at the tip. So perfect distal taper again, but it's slightly stiffer. So I think that's due to that Kingston Arms is the way they sharpened it. I think they cut more material away kind of in the midsection of the blade, making the overall blade a little thinner except for the spine. I think that's what they did on that one. And this one, it maintains its thickness throughout the length of or the width of the blade. So, and just at the end, at the very edge, is a bit more of that abrupt edge. So I think that's where the weight and stiffness difference is. They both weigh about 2 pounds. The Kingston Arms is just a little lighter than this one. Boy, I loved how this one comes aged, and so I aged it a little bit more. So pretty cool. This is one of the most accurate Jack Sparrow replicas out there. They don't advertise it as such, and I don't know if they actually intend it as such, but it is. Because it's fully functional. Very much, I definitely would trust both of these, but this one being the more kind of Sparrow replica, I definitely would trust it to hold up to whatever I want to throw at it. It's extremely solid. It's a good company. I think that's about all I have for that one. It's darn good, and it looks darn real. The thing looks like it's been at sea for a long time and seen some hard battle, which is exactly what I wanted with that one. Scabbard. I think it fits in there pretty loosely, so some people might have an issue with that if I try to, it doesn't, no resistance there at all, which that's how I like them. But yeah, if I'm running around a ship, it's going to fall out of its scabbard, so perhaps it's not ideal with that. Not the end of the world for me. You can always add something in the opening of this to try to make it a little tighter if that was a real concern. Great. Next is the Baltimore Knife and Sword, or Baltimore Knife and Steel Kraken cutlass. This one is, I wanted this for a while, and I saw it somewhere and decided to try to track it down. This one's definitely harder to get your hands on. Baltimore Knife and Sword is a challenging company, I suppose. They make fun stuff. Their stuff is definitely catered towards screen use as a prop in filming or stage combat. That's definitely the forte of their stuff. And I knew that going into it, but I didn't realize quite the extent of how that affects everything with the sword. So unlike the other two so far that we've discussed where they can be dismantled with their nice threaded tangs, this one is it's welded together. The guard is welded. It's inside here in the handle. It's welded there and on the other side, down in there, solidly. So this guard cannot come off, and I don't know how they affix the pommel. I'm not going to try to rip that off. It's not peened, and there's no thread on the outside. So I assume it's threaded and Loctited on there solidly, but I'm not about to go trying to rip that off in case it's attached in a method that it can't be put back on. So, and then they just wrap leather over the steel tang there, so no wood inside there, just leather. It makes for a really rugged grip. I like the way it looks, rugged and simple. It's a little thin, not the end of the world because there's no wood to give it that substance. But they're going for durability again. That's why they welded it. That's why they use a simple grip construction there. I like this. They call it the Kraken because, yeah, it definitely looks like a Kraken. So I decided I had to have it. I didn't really discuss prices yet on these. The Kingston arms is they're both about $300. Kingston arms and Hanwei are both about $300, give or take, anywhere in there. You can find a little less, a little more. This guy is roughly $750, depending where you find it. You can't really get it directly from them. They say you can, but you can't really. I tried for years to try to get a sword, this and another sword from them directly, and it didn't happen. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how many times I emailed them, they just would not. They got back occasionally, but they just wouldn't do it. So I got this one through one of their distributors. I can't even remember offhand who I got it from, but they worked with me really well. I know it was not Age of Chivalry. They have another distributor that was able to get it for me a lot better. Age of Chivalry was having difficulty getting it from them as well. So I worked with somebody else that Legacy Forge? I think it was Legacy Forge. So Legacy Forge, I think they might make some of their own stuff, but they also distribute other people. So I ended up getting that one from Legacy Forge, and yeah, it's good. But $750. Anyway, moving along, the last sword I have here is the Tony Swatton Jack Sparrow replica. Another ambidextrous grip like the Hanwei. I didn't necessarily mention that with the Hanwei. Both are ambidextrous, so either hand works just as well. This one's super cool because it's definitely the best Jack Sparrow replica out there, because I don't know if you know, Tony Swatton is the guy that made them for the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And now every once in a while he'll make a replica or a batch of replicas for people to buy. So this one, it's a cast brass guard and pommel, and this one actually has an aluminum blade. So because of that, it's a little thicker, maybe 6 millimeters or so. It does have distal taper going down to probably 4 there, and then probably 3 and 2 right at the end there. So it's a little less distal taper, but it's aluminum, so you need that extra thickness to keep it stiff enough. He designs these for reenactment purposes. He can make you an all-steel version if you want for battle. It adds another 1,000 or so to the blade overall. So it definitely adds a chunk. I decided I didn't need that. I'm not going to be using my cutlasses for anything other than waving around on a ship anyway. And so in reality, this is perfect for me. The fact that it's not sharp. This and my Kraken are now the ones that I take on the ship if I'm doing any kind of silly reenactment stuff on the ship. So yeah, I love it. Aluminum blade. It's solid, very solid. I like that he put this leather piece on there, so when it does go into the scabbard, it sits in there securely. It doesn't rattle. If you had a scabbard for it, ironically, it doesn't come with a scabbard. Ironically, it does fit in the Hanwei scabbard I learned, so it actually fits in there quite nicely. A little bit, not perfect at the end there, but at least it fits. So I have a scabbard I can put it in, which is pretty sweet. So there's a lot of questions about the Jack Sparrow's straightness of the blade. So this is his exact replica. He made it for the movie. He made these. There is a slight curve to the blade. Okay, some people say it's supposed to be totally straight. Well, it's not. It is supposed to have a bit of a curve to it. There's a replica out there by Magnoli Props, Jack Sparrow replica. Cool sword. I bought that one. I handled it so I could see what it was like and make a review. It's a totally straight blade. Two things with that one: it's totally straight, and it has a really bad temper. So if you bend it, it will stay bent. So they advertise it as a functional blade. It is definitely not. So I cannot recommend that one. Yeah, you try to use it for anything other than display, it'll bend and it'll stay bent. There's zero temper to that blade, and it's totally straight. So again, it should have a slight bend, and that's why I love the Hanwei. the Hanwei has a little bit more of a bend to it, but not much, and very reasonable. And again, even with that, it's going to be the most correct replica out there. Yes, the Magnolia Props is more correct visually. So if you're just going to hang it, yeah, the Magnolia Props is great. I don't know if it's like $250 or so it's not terribly expensive, and it looks quite like the correct shape of the Sparrow sword. So yeah, definitely an option if you're just using it as a wall hanger or Renaissance festivals, etc. Just don't try to use it. But since I was trying to go, I at least wanted one fully functional Sparrow replica. The Hanwei is going to be the one. There was a company out of it was distributed out of England or Germany that by the sword. They carried a one that was almost identical to the Hanwei, but half the price. I had one of them. The quality was almost identical to Hanwei too. It was just slightly less refined. So it was awesome. And then they stopped making them for some reason, which was a real bummer because, again, they were half the price and more or less the same quality. Where it mattered, the quality was there. The stiffness of the blade, the temper, the hilt construction. It was all the same and all great. It just gets slightly less refined. Let's see if I had anything else here. So, yeah, the overall pricing, I think I mentioned it, but I'll just review it. Both of these are about $300 for the Kingston Arms American Revolutionary War hanger. They don't call them cutlasses, they call it a hanger, even though it's clearly a cutlass. It's also a hanger. The Hanwei, or also Paul Chen, called Paul Chen. Hanwei Paul Chen Revolutionary War hanger, also right around $300, depending where you find it. Both come sharp. Kingston Arms comes insanely sharp. Hanwei comes reasonably sharp. The Kraken, that's a high carbon blade as well, but it's not sharp. I didn't say that. It's very dull. So, again, for stage combat. $750. You may or may not ever be able to get your hands on it. And the Tony Swatton, also $750, functional for stage combat with the aluminum blade. Amazing. What's my favorite? I don't know. These are all incredible swords. If I was just doing cutting with it, yeah, the Kingston Arms is definitely the sharpest. It would probably cut the best. If I was doing real battle with it, I'm definitely taking the American Revolutionary Hanwei hanger because it's slightly beefier and more robust, just a little bit. At least that blade is. I would say the quality of the handles are about the same. If I'm doing reenactment, either one of these would be good. They're both solid for their own way. I love that the Kraken is it's so crazy looking. It's insane. It's ridiculous. The skull, I just had to have it. The skull on the end. Oh man. So yeah, Kraken cutlass is incredible. I think the first two are definitely worth every penny. The Kraken cutlass, like most of Baltimore's knife and sword stuff, it is overpriced in my head. This one was worth it to me because of this intricate guard and pommel. Most of their stuff does not have an intricate guard and pommel, but they still sell it for that $400, $500, $600 range. When it's, if you know swords, reproduction, functional, or stage combat swords, what you see with their stuff is more in the $200 to $300 range. It should be. But it's still $500, $600, $700. So I have an issue with that, with how they do that. Big issue. But this was unique, so I went for it and supported them. They're great. They're a great company. They make really good stuff. You just have to, try to. It's hard to get a hold of, and it's expensive. They sell a lot of stuff at Renaissance festivals, whatnot, for both of their main distributors sell their stuff at Renaissance festivals, which is great. But because of that, they make a lot of stuff for those distributors, so it's hard to get it direct from them. And then those distributors go through their stuff real quick at those Renaissance festivals, so it can be hard. So yeah, my favorites, I don't know, they all are good. These are amazing. Tony Swatton, it's rare. You might not know this. It's rare for you to be able to get a sword made by the actual person that made them for the movie. So Peter Lyon made the swords for the Lord of the Rings. Well, you could sometimes, every once in a while, he sells a replica of one of his Lord of the Rings swords, but they started around $4,000 and go up. When they resell for eight plus grand. So the fact that you can get this by the man himself, the legend, for $750 is incredible, absolutely incredible, and I encourage everybody to get one if you can. He's actually selling. This is December 2024. He actually has a few of them for sale right now if you get a hold of them. So that's pretty good. Yeah, so that's it. They're all my favorites, really. I couldn't choose one. They're all my favorites for various reasons. I think, yeah, if I was forced to choose one, I'd go with the Hanwei because it's the best for like actual battle, and it also looks incredible like a Sparrow sword. So yeah, that's that. I don't think I have anything else to say for him. I hope that was useful for the amazing cutlasses out there, functional and stage combat functional. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. If you have any other questions, I didn't answer them, please reach out to me, put a comment on there, message me directly, whatever, and I can do that. If you want to see specific videos on any one of them individually, I can do that at a later time as well if we think it's necessary. But I think I covered most of the info. So, all right, Steve for the Black Spot Guild out. Powered on.